blackjack, roulette, craps, and the brainiacs who managed to beat the casino at their own game, plus some of the most legendary cheats in history. Here are 10 people who beat the casino. Number 10. Gonzalo Garcia-Pelayo. Garcia Palaio was the first man ever to defeat the roulette wheel bias in the 1990s. This guy was from Spain, and he was originally an unsuccessful record producer. After his business didn't go so well, he devoted all his time into playing roulette. He used the theory that says not all roulette wheels are random, and that every wheel is unique with certain numbers coming up more often than others. This seems like a completely insane idea, but it kind of makes sense. The thought is that no two wheels in the world can be exactly the same because of minute differentials in the size of the pockets, the gears of the machine, and all of the other tiny aspects of what goes into making a physical roulette wheel. This guy actually went into casinos and stared at wheels for hours and hours, recording thousands of spins to see what exactly was going on. He recorded his results and then analyzed them with a computer. He didn't bet any money at first. All he did was observe thousands of sessions on a single wheel. Then, by using his analysis, he bet on the hot numbers of the wheel and ended up making an absolute fortune. He would do this continuously until he felt the casino was onto him. Then he would move on to a new casino and start the process again. Eventually, Spain figured out who he was, and so he went to Las Vegas where he continued to profit. He ended up retiring with roughly $1.5 million in the bank. Number 9. Keith Taft. Keith Taft beat the casino in the slyest way possible. He was basically Inspector Gadget in the flesh. He devoted 30 years of his life to developing devices simply to beat the casino. Keep in mind this was back in the 70s, before the internet and mobile phones. Taft got hooked on blackjack in 1969, tried to card count but couldn't hack it, and finally, after years of tinkering, developed a computer he named George that could help him count cards and that he could control with his toes and wear under his clothes. The problem was that it weighed 15 pounds and was too bulky. After a bit more tinkering, he developed a lightweight device that he named David, and which was probably one of the most advanced computers of its time. In the first week that Keith Taft used his device, he made $40,000. Then he got the brilliant idea of selling his mini computers for $10,000 apiece and training people how to use it. Taft was eventually detained at a casino after they figured out he was using a computer, but he was later released because the casino and the FBI had no idea what the computer was or how to use it, and so they couldn't prove that Taft was cheating. Taft ended up making even more inventions, including a computer with a tiny video camera that could spy on the dealer's hand and a computer that could figure out the positions of cards in a deck when a perfect shuffle was used. He ended up winning thousands and thousands of dollars over the years and was actually inducted into the Blackjack Hall of Fame in 2004. Do you like to gamble or go to the casino? Do you have any ideas about ways to beat the house when it comes to gambling? Let me know your wild theories in the comments below. Or if you ever hit a massive jackpot, tell me about it. Be sure to subscribe because there are lots more amazing videos coming out right here on American Eye. And believe me, you won't want to miss them. Number 8. Ron Harris. Ron Harris is one of the only people on Earth who actually profited from playing keno. It happened in January 1995, when a man named Reid Errol McNeal beat the odds 1,000,000 to 1 and hit a huge keno jackpot of $100,000 at the Bally's Park Place Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Everything probably would have been all right, except that the guy who won the jackpot aroused the suspicion of officials because he didn't have any ID on him, he showed zero emotion after winning, and he wanted to be paid immediately in cash. New Jersey law states that any jackpot over $35,000 must be verified by gaming officials. But when the officials arrived at the casino and went to McNeal's room with a pair of state troopers, they found Ron Harris. Harris said he was a friend of the guy who won the jackpot, and after McNeal went downstairs with the officials to answer questions, Harris ran away. It turned out that Harris was actually a computer technician for the Nevada Gaming Control Board, and had a stash of computer equipment and books inside the hotel room detailing how a random number generator could be defeated. Basically, Harris used McNeal as a flunky to win the massive jackpot. He actually beat the casino, And if the pair of them hadn't been so stupid, they could have walked out of the building with $100,000. Instead, they went about it in a completely ridiculous way, and both men ended up being arrested, and nobody got that cash. Number 7. Ida Summers. Ida Summers is one of the most notorious casino cheaters in history. She was a gorgeous woman who in the 60s and 70s collected tens of thousands of dollars using all kinds of shifty methods in the casinos. Her specialty was at the blackjack table. She would conceal a card that had been brought to the table or removed from play altogether, and then she would deftly switch it back into play when it could benefit her. She was basically a magician who used sleight of hand to cheat the casino. Because she was so ridiculously attractive and charismatic, she could deflect any heat that came her way by simply smiling and laughing it off. In the 70s, Ida Summers found herself in Las Vegas. Keep in mind that this was a time when mobsters controlled most of the casinos and weren't very nice when they caught people cheating. But Ida didn't care. She actually took it a step further and began to bring her own decks into the casino and then use her magician abilities to switch the casino deck for her modified deck. Nobody knows quite how she managed to get away with this for so long, especially since she was the only casino cheater who had attempted to bring a cold deck into a Vegas casino. But of course, all cheaters get caught, and Ida Summers was eventually apprehended by the FBI. Number 6. Louis the Coin Colavecchio. Louis Colavecchio was perhaps the most notorious counterfeiter that ever lived. He was a thorn in the side of casinos for years as he manufactured counterfeit coins to be used in casinos all across the nation. One of his biggest arrests came in 1996 at Caesars Atlantic City when he and his girlfriend were caught with 800 pounds of fake coins. At the time, it was considered the biggest counterfeiting scheme ever that involved legal gambling. After this, he spent 2 years in federal prison and was eventually banned from every casino in the country. But that didn't stop him from wearing wigs and dressing as a woman, then entering casinos to use his fake coins to win a fortune. Over the years, he was convicted of many different crimes, including resisting arrest and drug charges. Even after the age of 55, he was convicted of at least 5 crimes. In the most recent case, Louis was raided by U.S. Secret Service agents in December of 2018, where they seized around 2,400 counterfeit $100 bills. And even more recently, just in 2020, Louis the Coin Colavecchio died at the age of 78, just weeks after he was granted compassionate release from the federal prison where he was doing time. Number 5. Richard Marcus. Richard Marcus lived under a bridge. He was in pretty rough shape. After getting his act together, he managed to score a job as a blackjack dealer, and it was while he dealt cards that he began to think about how to cheat the casino. His secret move ended up being dubbed the Savannah. It involved getting a small denomination of chips, like 3 $5 chips at a table, and after he won, Richard would get extremely excited. The dealer would be confused of why he was so excited, and Richard would then alert them that there was a $500 chip underneath the 3 $5 chips. And of course, when the dealer checked, there would be a chip there. A big cheating part of this was that if Richard lost his bet, he would swiftly sneak the $500 chip off the table. It was all an optical illusion, but he used it to his advantage. At the peak of his cheating, he was slipping $500 chips under $100 chips. Considering that payouts at the roulette table are 35 to 1, that is one heck of a payday. Before Richard got arrested, it was estimated that he scoffed about $5 million from casinos across the entire world. Why didn't he stop after his first million? Greed got the better of him. Number 4. Tommy Glenn Carmichael. Tommy Carmichael was very similar to Keith Taft. Tommy used clever devices to gain a huge edge when playing at the casino. But unlike Keith, Tommy preferred to play slots. His method was to take any slot machine and beat it. He began his career as a cheater in the 1980s at the age of 30, and his first trick was to use a special device that was basically just a piece of metal that would produce a payout whenever it was inserted into the coin slot. This worked for a while, but Carmichael eventually got caught and arrested in Las Vegas, where he then spent some time in jail. After Tommy got out of jail, he developed a special pair of tools that he called the slider and the monkey paw, which when inserted into the slot machine would trip a special switch and cause a huge release of coins. Everything was going swell until computers began to take over the industry. The first thing Tommy did was go into a slot machine manufacturer posing as a potential customer. He had the salesman open up the new machine, and Tommy then studied its insides. That was all he needed to invent his unique light wand, a gadget consisting of a camera battery and a small light that could be used to blind the sensors inside the slots and cause them to immediately pay out coins. This device was so effective that Carmichael ended up making tens of thousands of dollars on any given day, and he even sold the light wand to other cheaters. Today, Tommy works for casinos and produces anti-cheating devices. But of course, this is only because he was arrested almost half a dozen times since the 1990s. Number 3. Edwardthorpe. Edwardthorpe was a card counter and a mathematics professor with a master's degree in physics. He was extremely intelligent, and in the early 60s, he figured out a secret method for counting cards and winning the game. He simulated billions of blackjack hands and figured out exactly what it took to count the cards and win against the casino. Using the method he created, he was able to get a 5% advantage over the house. Edwardthorpe then went to casinos and in a single weekend would win almost $100,000 in cash. The reason he was so skilled at this was because card counting didn't exist yet, and he was the only one doing it. Even though some casinos asked Thorpe to leave because he was winning so much, none of the casinos could figure out how he was doing it. After hitting the casinos, Edwardthorpe put his mathematical genius to work at the stock market and made a huge fortune there. He was then one of the first people inducted into the Blackjack Hall of Fame. Number 2. The MIT Blackjack Team. The MIT Blackjack Team is definitely the most famous story on the list. There have been books written about it, and there was even a major movie that came out in 2008, and it all started as an after-school club at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the middle of the 1990s. This brilliant team of students decided to use their knowledge to beat the game of blackjack. In the years that followed, they played casinos and made a literal fortune. Their system of winning was card counting. When done correctly, card counting does give players a substantial edge. This was not a new idea at the time, but the MIT team took it to unheard-of levels. They actually created a casino mock-up where they could practice their team-based approach to cheating. They figured that having a team minimized their chances of being caught while maximizing their total opportunities. After the MIT Blackjack Team perfected their system after hundreds of hours, they began in underground card games to ensure that when they moved on to casinos, they would be ready. They eventually acquired financial backing from an anonymous investor and started the game with a bankroll of several $100,000. Then they invaded the casinos in Las Vegas. In a single weekend, they could make as much as $400,000. They eventually had to leave the United States because it got too hot for them, and they traveled to Europe to rob the casinos there. But after a brush with the law, everything fell apart. Every casino in the world knew about the MIT students, and they actually took photos from the school's yearbook and uploaded it to their database, and that effectively ended their spree. However, according to the BBC, it's believed that they profited at least $5 million during their years counting cards. Number 1. Dominic Loriggio. Dominic Loriggio is also known as the man with the golden arm. Believe it or not, after thousands of hours of practice, this guy learned controlled shooting. This is the technique of throwing the dice in such a way during a game of craps that you get whatever numbers you want. By gripping the dice in a precise way and throwing them so that they hit the back wall softly and land with your desired numbers facing up, you can basically cheat the entire game. Dominic attacked the Vegas Strip with a group of friends, and they used the specialized shooting techniques to win a bunch of money. But he eventually went out on his own to try to seriously rake in the cash without a group holding him down. Dominic then teamed up with a famous gambler named Frank Scabletti. It's been reported that the two of them ended up making thousands and thousands of dollars from all kinds of different casinos, and he didn't even do it in an illegal way. There's nothing illegal about throwing the dice in a strategic fashion. However, some casinos can identify controlled shooters and will force them to roll the dice differently. Currently, Dominic Loriggio is actually giving out dice throwing classes, so if you're looking to make a few easy bucks, you might want to sign up. Whose strategy for beating the casino do you think was the best? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you again soon for another exciting video right here on American Eye.